All right, Julie. Again, we're wearing the same clothes for two consecutive videos because we recorded the other one but 15 minutes ago. All right, so we've decided that
Yeah,
we're going
right.
to rehash a video that we made a couple months ago. I'm not sure how long
We
ago it
haven't
was.
posted.
That never made it to live publication on YouTube because the audio didn't work out. It only recorded one side audio. I forget who. I think it was my side, but whatever it was. So you only really heard half the conversation. And while
Yeah.
that it's not a complete loss, you do lose half of that because even the one-sided conversation it records, half of that conversation is response to what the other person said. So you can kind of piece things together a little bit, but it's not the same. So we're going to have this conversation again, or review the topic, I should say. We don't have a script to go back and read, but we're going to talk about
So,
house rule versus homebrew, what the difference is, because that's how we started the conversation, and then we'll go on to talk about what house rule and homebrew
our
rules
favorite.
I run and which ones you run, and perhaps others that are currently under consideration for your game. So let's start with definitions. So, Julie, you tell me, what is a homebrew rule?
Um, for me, house rule versus homebrew is that, or you want me to give like each separate definition?
Whatever you want. What's
I'd say a homebrew rule is something 100% new, 100% created, and not something that already exists.
agreed?
Whether that's yeah, that's whether that's like, hey, look, here's this new table I'm gonna use forever, or my revamping of the entire travel system that I've I've talked about. That is a homebrew rule. I would say that a house rule is an adjustment to an already existing rule. Where instead of taking an action to drink a health potion, you make it a bonus action, and that way you can do an action and a bonus action, and you can heal on the same turn, which is a really popular one that Wizards of the Coast has made canon, and I think is a thing in 2024 D&D.
I agree with your definitions that if it's
Yeah,
original, then it's a homebrew rule. And if it's a modification of an existing rule that's in the game itself, not
in
a
Raw.
modification of someone else's homebrew rule, a modification of raw, right? Rules as written. So if it's in the player's handbook, the monster manual, the dungeon master's guide, if you modify one of those rules, then um, it's a house rule.
House
If you
rule.
come up with a an original idea to you, then it's homebrew. Now, I will admit that
I
I
know where you're going.
thought I had a homebrew rule, which it turned out I later learned really was a house rule because I didn't know the rule existed. So, but in a sense, I would still argue, not that it
That's so
matters. I
funny.
would argue that it is a homebrew because since I didn't know the other one existed, I wasn't modeling it off of that, and I didn't modify that existing rules as written rule. I came up with my own unique, well, my own idea, and that was my house rule. And that pertains to hit points and zero hit points and not dead yet kind of thing. But nonetheless, it is what it is. In a way, it comes down to semantics. I mean, there is a define or a definition, a line of demarcation between what a house rule is and a homebrew rule is. Um, Call it what you want. In a sense, it doesn't matter. It's a rule that is not rules as written, whether it's original or modified, that you run in your game to make your game for the benefit of you and your players as to how you like to play, whether it be style, pace, reward system, whatever it is. So that's kind of the definition here, or what we're going to be using for our definitions between these two. Now, anytime you modify anything, I think, personally, you need to do it with cause. You need to do it cautiously, and you need to do it with purpose. Just making up rules for the sake of it often doesn't go well. I think
Mm-mm.
D&D as a whole, regardless of which edition, and you know I'm not really a 5e guy, but nonetheless, they're pretty well designed in terms of being pretty well balanced because they've been honing these rules for 60-ish years.
Yeah.
Okay, even 1E, which is 50 years old or 51 years old, that was in development for years before it became Dungeons and Dragons, right? So they've been working on this rule system for 60 years or so. So the game's pretty well balanced. I'm not saying it's without flaw or without its idiosyncrasies, but it's balanced. So if you go in and start changing shit, you can very quickly f it up.
Play with the
You
balance.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
then it becomes too much of your game and not D&D if you start changing too much. Like at what point does your game that you run of D&D with all your modifications, house rule, homebrew rules, if you have too much, is it D&D or have you created your
Mhm.
own game system?
Mhm. Does it become Hearthstone? No. What's the new one?
Daggerheart?
Daggerheart.
Yeah.
Hearthstone is a trading card game.
So and that's okay too. Like if you want to come up with your own game system, all the power to you. And I support those who are game developers. But if you change too much, call it something else. Call it your game, but don't call it
Yep.
D&D. Call it something else,
Mhm.
and take credit for it. Give yourself credit. So that's what I got to say about that. So tell me, Julie, what? Oh, and there are good rules and bad rules that people come up with. Let me tell you that. Okay. So what homebrew slash house rules have you come across, whether you've used them or just heard about them, that were really sucky?
um,
Or which ones would you absolutely not use in your game?
I don't really like the potion as a bonus action. I think it makes it too easy. I'm not a huge fan of that
So
one.
okay, so for those of us who don't know, define a bonus action.
Uh, Bonus actions are part of action economy in fifth edition. So
Mm-hmm.
you have your action, say movement, action, reaction, bonus action. Are some of the different types of action economy. So if you take an action, like I'm going to stab a monster with a dagger, you can then do a bonus action. For a lot of people, it's like a second attack, or like the rogue can hide, or he can run away. Sometimes, like I said, like monks will have like I'll use my bonus action to hit this guy a second time. Flurry of blows. Or like a fighter will sometimes I'll use my bonus action to do an extra attack. But you can use your bonus action to do an extra thing. It's not like a full action. Sometimes it's like a half action. Sometimes it is a full action. A full extra attack step is a
Right,
full action.
right.
Um,
Does this
so
apply to all
for
classes?
no, only certain classes.
Okay, so
Only
essentially,
certain classes get bonus actions.
okay, so a bonus action is really just
Class
it's just that
based.
it's a bonus action. It's another full action, and what I choose to do
Yeah,
with it, whether I use like a full action or a half action, is up to me. But I have a whole other attack, right?
thing.
Because an attack
Yeah.
is like one action. That's like a combat round,
Same
right?
with like hiding. Hide if you want to go hide and stealth away into the darkness, that is an action.
Okay,
But like rogues have a bonus action where they can hide. So you can stab a guy and then bonus action hide. I go run away in the shadows.
okay, all right. So and you're saying that the rules as written says drinking a potion is an
Is
action.
an action.
Okay, which
But
which
in a
which.
lot of people for
Hmm.
homebrew, we're doing you can drink a health potion and stab a guy. And I
Okay,
think that's
but wait a
like
minute. But if I have a bonus action and my bonus action can be stabbing a guy,
why not just stab the guy twice?
well, I'm saying then how is that? Then how is drinking a potion not? Do you not consider that to be fair for a bonus action? It's an action. My bonus action is an action. It's not a
It
smaller
is.
action. You said it's another action. I get to do two things.
It depends on the class. Sometimes it's a full two things, sometimes it's not. Like I
Okay.
said, like yeah, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Usually it is though. But drinking a health potion is an action, and in 2014, you drank your health potion. It was a full action. You could not take it as a bonus action.
Okay.
But a lot of people were like, "No, that's stupid. Let me just if You could do other things as bonus actions. You could drink a health potion as a bonus action.
Yeah, so
So
I
a lot of
definitely follow
people
the
adjusted
logic.
that.
Yeah. I but okay,
I
so
think it makes the game too easy.
well, that's 5e. What
Correct. The game's already too easy. Shut up.
uh what how long in terms of time, how long is an action? Is that like a round? It can't be a round.
You can
It's got to be like
you
a
can move and take an action. So it's you can do your full movement and take an action, or you could do a combination of move, action, move. But it's a one round is
6 seconds, right?
yeah something like that,
Okay.
10 seconds, something.
Okay. So
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 it's only a couple seconds.
in 6 to 10 seconds, I have an action and potentially a bonus action. That doesn't sound like a lot of time for me to now can I move, attack and bonus action?
Move, attack, and bonus action. Yes, depending on what class you're on.
Okay, yeah, then I agree with you that that's BS. Cuz think about that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So think about that logistically, okay? In whatever 6 to 10 seconds, okay? I can move whatever distance we're talking about. I don't know, 30 feet, 60 feet, whatever. Engage in melee with my opponent, jockey for position, parry, and make my attack successful or not. And then
And then
while
pop open a health
and then
potion.
while I'm there in front of him, reach into my backpack, pull out a potion, quaff the potion, and he doesn't hit me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
No,
saying. That
that's
should be
such a
a
crock
full
of shit.
action.
That's such a crock of
Yes,
shit.
I agree.
Yeah,
I've
that's
heard
dumb.
another
Okay.
one. It's called compounding criticals,
Yep,
where
yep, yep.
if you get a critical and then you critical on the critical, you get another critical, and then if you get another critical, you critical on the critical.
So
I think that's shitty too. It's
in
too easy.
terms
Stop.
of statistics, like statistically speaking, like I'm okay with that because statistically speaking, the odds of that happening, rolling 1 in 20, which is a 5%, and then again and getting
Yeah.
5%, and then again and get. Listen,
Again.
if you're getting
Yeah.
that shit, man, yeah, sure, I'm okay with that. But
Your
I
dice
don't
are ruined.
I don't play like that. But like if someone wants to play like that, like I definitely follow the logic on that. But
A lot of people argue homebrew for critical successes and critical failures.
mm-hmm.
Something bad happening on or something bad good happening on critical successes. I'm having a stroke. And something bad happening on critical failures. A really popular one is dropping your weapon.
Yep.
And then it takes a full action to pick your weapon back up because you dropped it. You silly,
So
silly motherfucker.
and
You do it with the missiles. The missile, it goes in the wrong direction. I
so
saw one. It was a magic caster gets a critical failure on casting a spell. They explode a little bit, a little tiny
mm,
explosion in their face. Yeah, and they take a little bit of like anti-spell damage because of it's exploded in their face.
so I think it's fair if you're going to run critical hits, then yeah, you
Should
maybe
run critical
then it's
misses.
fair you'd have critical misses. Now a lot of people don't use critical misses because well, it's not fun, right? Um,
But
but whatever you do, critical miss, critical hit, both, neither, it needs to go both ways for the good
it
guys and the
should.
bad guys.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely 100%. If you don't do that, you're screwing up your
A
game.
bad DM.
It's
Yep.
unbalanced, and this is why you got to be cautious when you start effing with the rules. Okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, critical misses. Yeah, you fumble your weapon, you drop it, it breaks, the bowstring breaks. Whatever it might be. Um, Personally, and you play in one of my games personally, the closest I do to that is if you roll a nat 1 on a
On
hurled
a
or
hurled
projectile
or
weapon,
missile,
and you obviously miss your target, but you might hit an unintended target. Now the unintended
a
target
random
could be
direction,
another bad guy, which would work to your favor, but it could also be your other party mates
a
who are
party
kind of in
member.
front of you in the way. So that's the closest I get to truly doing like a critical miss table of
I
some
dropped the
kind.
weapon. I
Other than
fumbled the
that,
weapon.
I just maybe once in a while I'll be creative and just well not creative. I'll just say, oh yep, nat one. Unfortunately, oh you rolled a nat one again. Well, yeah, you dropped your weapon. Sorry, it broke or
Oh,
it broke.
yeah, maybe a
But
second.
I don't have a table for that, and I don't do it every time you roll a nat one in combat.
No.
I don't.
No, too much.
But I do work with critical hit. So
My criticals are homebrewed. I do crunchy criticals.
any other homebrew type stuff that you don't
Horrible,
like?
full, awful, horrible ones. I mean, there's probably so many
Oh, there
lists
are. There are.
of
If we look for them,
awful,
there are tons of
awful
them.
homebrew rules. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that comes about because people just think, oh yeah, I want to change this, and they don't really think about it in terms of the whole picture or the long-term impact it's going to have, right? And they don't necessarily play test them. They say this is the rule, and that's it, right? So I'll give an example of that. So in first edition, first level magic is a spell, classic magic missile, right? And rules as written says you get one missile like every 3 levels.
Yeah, you
Okay,
adjusted that.
and I changed that to one for every level because
Yeah.
I've always thought that spell to be that's kind of sucky. I get one hit for like 4 points of damage, and I'm third level.
Well,
That's
it's
kind of
automatic
sucky.
hit.
Well, I get it, but so I'm like, that's kind of sucky. So that's why I said let me do one per level and we'll try it. And then on Tuesday night we had a spellcaster who was fourth level and unleashed all four at the same big bad evil guy, guaranteed to hit.
Bing,
So
bing, 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 bing,
so
bing.
that was up to they do what? That's up to 20 points of damage in one essentially one blow, one round of attack from
A
a
D4
magic
plus
user.
one.
I was like,
Yeah.
geez, that sounds. I don't know. That this might be unbalanced. Like I might need to pull this back.
Retron it
But
back.
we have tried, and like the jury's still out, so to speak. But it's not carved in stone. Like I'm flexible with that, and oftentimes I'll
Yeah,
even
it's
bring it up
homebrew.
with the players and say, hey. What do you think
You
about it?
guys still
And
like
we
this?
did. I think we discussed it after. It's like, what do you guys think? That seemed like a little bit much to me. And we had the discussion, right? So I think as any DM who's worth his weight, and I weigh more now than I did last year, you need to be flexible when you introduce new house rules. First, I think you need to be respectful to your players and
Hey, do you guys want to do
present it
this
to
or
the
not?
players first. You don't necessarily need to get their permission, but say, hey, this is the house rule I'm thinking about. Okay, this is the house rule I'm
What
introducing.
are your
It
thoughts?
goes in effect at this time, and it shouldn't be in the middle of a combat or even in the middle of the module on most accounts. Um,
I'm doing
and
that.
then go from there. Okay, but most of them kind of need to be play tested, especially if it's combat related.
Yes.
Okay, they need to be
Yeah.
play tested.
No initiative combat.
So it took you a little while to get there, but you're there. You're there.
Yes. Now. Yes.
So like right now, and I posted it tonight, Julie. Trying to do a encumbrance system, which is a
Oh,
slot
slot
based certain
based.
number of items that you can carry, right? In
Yeah.
simplicity, and that is to not to circumvent, but to simplify the 1E encumbrance system, which is very mathematical. It's a pain in the ass. So we're trying to kind of hone it down and say you can have X number of items with certain limitations, and that is to
Might be just
simplify
weight based.
the weight base versus physical size, the bulk of it,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So
New 2024 adjusted it to be per size. 2014 didn't. 2014 just gave you everybody had the same. It didn't matter if you're a big boy or a little boy.
okay, so to that point, and I wanted to ask you about that since we're on this topic,
2024
and
changed
and
it.
because I'm introducing this proposal here to our Tuesday night game in particular. What does 5e do for encumbrance? Can you just carry as much shit as you want?
So in 2014, hold on, I have to do. I don't want random weight. I have to find it. Hang on. It would be encumbrance,
Right,
but
right.
yay. 5e tools is not cooperating with me. Hold on. 2014
Hmm.
D&D 2014 encumbrance is 15 times their strength score. So theoretically,
Okay, hang on. So 15 times their strength, and what does that tell me?
um, that's your total limit. That's your total
Okay,
capacity.
so 15 times their strength. So for simple math, if I have a strength of 10, My encumbrance limit is 150. 150 what is what I'm asking.
Pounds.
150 pounds. And how do we determine
Pounds.
how much weight I'm carrying? I have to sit there and add everything up for every single item.
Yes.
And as I use it, as I consume my arrows or my food or my rope, or I lose something or it breaks, now I have to do the math throughout the game all night long
Yeah.
potentially, and deduct it and add it and so on. Okay, so at least they've kind of held that encumbrance system. First edition is essentially that as well.
D&D Beyond keeps track of all that weight for you.
If you're using digital tools, yes. And I
Correct.
will tell you that there is a tool for 1E similar to that. It's out
If you
there.
become over encumbered, there is a variant rule that exists in the DMG that says your character's speed, total speed, will drop by
Hmm.
5 feet if they exceed the amount.
Okay.
There is
So,
a push, drag, lift capacity. That is a separate score. That's if you're pushing a giant cart,
okay.
or you're lifting a big box, or
Which
you're
is more, it
dragging
sounds like
a
it'd be more
sack.
a strength issue than an encumbrance issue. But to avoid this whole continuous mathematical equation for encumbrance, I'm trying to
Number crunch.
so
Number
I'm trying
crunch.
to simplify it and just do a slot based system, X number of items, and we don't have to worry about how much that item weighs. We don't have to worry about how big the item is, and do it like that. Now, this unto itself is not a unique idea. There are other game systems that use it. There are other D&D groups that use it, but there's nothing in the rules as written about using a slot based system. So,
Right.
going to what we're talking about, I guess technically this would be a homebrew rule. I'm coming up with this
Hmm.
myself with really nothing to base it on in the rules themselves. And I'm making it work for us. And it's going to be a trial and error. So our game on Tuesday night is really going to be our play test for it. And it's
Hmm.
perfect timing because we are finishing one module
Oh,
and
carry capacity. That's the.
transition to the next one. So this is the perfect time to introduce a new rule, and we'll try it out, and we'll tweak it as we go. And if no one likes it and it sucks, then it can't be fixed, then we just drop it, and we'll
Carrying
continue.
capacity in the new 2024 Player's Handbook, sorry, it's loading, is actually dependent on your size. For tiny creatures, it's strength times 7.5. For medium, it's strength times
Okay.
15. Large, it's strength 30, so
Okay.
on and so forth.
Yeah.
It
So
goes, and then it goes 60,
and
and
that
then it
makes
goes
sense,
120.
and that makes sense.
More sense.
I agree, but it's still doing all that math. I'm carrying a
Yeah,
spear
number
that
crunch.
weighs whatever
Welcome
five
to
pounds.
D&D.
I'm carrying a backpack that weighs 2 pounds. I'm here, and you're doing that math. It's such a pain.
You
It's
were,
such a
you
pain.
remember you remember the travel episode where I told you
Oh
all
my
of it was just
god.
number crunching and I
Yeah.
hated it?
So that's why I'm trying to do a slot-based system. Okay. So, any other shitty house rules that you can think of that you've heard
Shitty
about?
house
Yeah,
rules?
or homebrew,
No,
house rule,
not
homebrew, whatever.
really.
Okay. So, are there
Not that
any
I can think of.
are there
Not that
any
I've been exposed to.
house rules or homebrew rules that you've learned about, you've read about, seen online, YouTube, Reddit, whatever, that you've considered introducing but have not done so yet?
The travel ones.
Okay.
The ration based ones from whatever the guy you sent me, and then Pointy Hat's travel rules. I'm really going to add into my system. I really, really like them
Okay.
because the ration thing will help to bring that we are in some crazy ass woods. We're in a crazy situation. It'll really help my Icewind Dale campaign because they're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
All right, so I don't want to get too far into that because that's specific for travel, and that's almost like a whole nother video that we could talk about that some more. And we did a video I think on that, but we could definitely delve into that even deeper.
Yeah, we hinted at it.
But
Yeah.
now I know one of them is kind of ration based, right? To make sure you don't run out of food, and they have a game mechanic for that, which is what you're talking about. But
Oh yeah.
do
The
do
raw
you
mechanics
do
stupid.
you
It's more
embrace
number
what
crunching.
many 5e groups do and not pay attention to
Not do it
consumables
at
at all?
all.
Whether it be
So I used
rations,
to.
arrows, sling stones,
I
whatever.
I do with arrows to a point, unless they're in some crazy ass like location. If you're like in town, you're gonna find it. if you're in the middle of the woods, you're probably not going to find all of them. So sometimes I make people roll. But do I remember to do that often?
Okay,
No.
but you're talking about recovery of that projectile. But are you,
Yeah,
I'll say, like expecting the players to keep track of these consumables?
not really, no.
Okay.
Because what's the point? What's the point? You go to the next town. Okay, I buy more.
Well, the okay, so
If it's their primary weapon and then their primary weapon lists, I guess it would make for a good point of tension.
yeah,
But do I expect them to keep track of it? No, because I haven't set that expectation
right.
because at the beginning of all this, I didn't. Ugh,
So a lot, from what I understand, a lot of 5e groups don't pay attention to consumables. So you buy a
no.
bow, you buy your quiver, and your initial set of arrows, and you're good
An
forever.
infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Especially arrows and bows.
so
Sling stones, I told my character that he would have to find like a really nice body of water to find nice sling stones.
okay.
A river, a lake, something. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to find a body of water to get them. You can't
So
just pick up some random rock. You can't throw ball bearings. You can't throw caltrops. It's not gonna happen.
so the from what I understand, a lot of 5e groups kind of play that way. They don't worry about their consumables, not even food. Like you buy it once
I
and it's good forever. But the
I've
reason
been
I like to do
turned
that,
to food. I've been turned to food.
so the reason why I like to do that is because not only does it add a certain, a level of realism to the game, but
Tension.
it creates another challenge for the players to be aware
Think
of,
about.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and
We
even
went on a trip and it took too
and
long. Oh
and
shit.
even if you say, well, some of the arrows or whatever missile this is recoverable, some of them are, but eventually, if you keep track of it, they're going to deplete, and you can say, well, when
Still,
you go to the
yeah.
next town, you can get some. Well, maybe the next town doesn't have some because it's a little farming village. Maybe the next town is 3 weeks away, and you got shit that's going to happen along the way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's
Isn't that why one of your characters is like trying? Isn't that why What's Her Doodle's trying to like become a Fletcher?
yeah, so Erica,
Erica.
um, what the hell's her character? Muriel's her character. She chose, I think, Bowyer Fletcher or something to that effect for her non-weapon proficiency, so she can make arrows. That was in
Yeah.
part because at that time there was a shortage of arrows at the keep an unknown reason to them. There's a shortage, and not only that, they had made a deal with the bugbearers that they would trade them arrows for information or something,
Oh my God, no!
and and
Against the people of the keep.
and now they have no arrows. So that's why she chose that.
LOL.
But yeah, so the consumable items, and this is not a house rule or homebrew. This is kind
Oh,
of the
raw.
rules, right?
Yeah.
Um, it creates a certain level of realism, and it creates an interesting game mechanic to keep track of this stuff. Because if you run out, you run out, and now what do I do? Now I
Tension.
can't use my bow, I can't use my sling, and then
Concern.
like, okay, well, how do I get them? Well, the next town, maybe, maybe they have 'em, maybe they don't. Maybe it's at a price I can't afford because I'm broke. Who knows? So do I
Yeah.
make them? Well, maybe not a bow,
All my baby
maybe not an
were
arrow.
very
That
broke.
requires some certain material type and a skill set. Finding a stone for a sling, that's probably a little easier to find. But as I remember, I sent you some videos on that. A sling stone is not just a friggin' rock. It's more to it
No.
than that. They're often
Yeah.
like clay baked balls the size of a peach a peach or a small plum or something kind of
A
decent
really
size,
round rock
right? And nice, perfectly round. And so there's more to it than just picking up a rock that's not
on the ground.
round like a sphere. That's
Right.
that's what they're supposed to be, and not the kind of rock that you'd skip at the beach. Anyway, so keeping track of consumables, I think, is an interesting component to the game.
I'm getting turned towards it. Yeah. I wasn't at first because I didn't see it, but now that I play a really like gritty you're in the wilderness campaign, playing Icewind Dale really opened up my eyes as well as all of the long-term traveling that I do in Barovia. And Barovia is like the dangerous woods, the half-dead woods.
So
I really
if
wish
you
I
want to
had
make
more
it really
tension.
interesting, here's where the tension comes in. Not with food, okay? Because I can buy a
These
week or two worth of
consumables.
food and bring it with me, okay? We can go hunting, a hunting party, right? We can go out, we can shoot the antelope, the deer, trap the rabbit, whatever it is. We can probably find food if we're in the woods, okay? Where it
But
gets
you get
real,
attacked by shit.
where it gets really interesting, which is what I don't keep track of, or it is water.
Oh yeah, food and
because
water.
your wine skin, water skin, whatever,
Can only herd, but so many.
even if it holds a gallon, which will run you roughly 8 to 10 pounds of
Yeah,
weight between the skin and
yeah,
its contents, okay, that's going to last you less than a day, maybe a day if you push it.
yeah.
And if you're
As a brutal adventurer
if you're
trekking through the
if you're
wilderness.
traveling out in the wilderness for 5 days and you need to bring with you 70 gallons of water, not 70, 15 gallons of water at 10 pounds
15.
a piece, that's 150 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm maxed out right there, and I can't carry or wear
All
anything
the
else,
water.
right?
Shit.
It's just drinking water. And then to find clean, potable water out in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere,
In the middle of nowhere.
that's where your travel can get really gritty.
Gritty.
Water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Water. Now, if you have a cleric or someone who can cast like purify food and water,
Purify food, water.
okay, well then
Yeah.
I'm in
Food and
decent
drink.
shape. I just need to find a body of water.
Water. Yeah.
And there may not be any around for miles.
Yeah.
And even if there
You
is,
have
I still gotta
somebody who
find
has
it.
you have somebody who has make water, and then you have somebody who has purify food and drink.
So now if you have
Utility spells.
create water, that's all well and
Is
good.
it
You need to
potable?
have containers.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, is
but if everyone
create
has a
water
wine
potable?
skin, well, yeah. So if you're using create water, I can't imagine it wouldn't be potable. It would be clean water, and I say that
Clean
because not
water.
only does that just make sense in my mind, but that is one of the
It's magic
required. That's
water.
one of the required spells. Create water to create holy water. So
Uh,
like it's got to
and
have a
holy
certain
water
level of
is radiant.
purity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah, 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 yeah,
well,
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah, 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 yeah,
god
yeah.
would empower their cleric to create dirty water?
Dirty water? An evil one?
You know.
A
So.
warlock?
All right, so yeah, so if you want to get gritty on your travel, make it about the liquids,
Water.
the water, the wine,
Liquid.
whatever. Yeah, that's where it
Yeah,
gets
especially
gritty.
in my Frozen campaign.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but okay, but in the frozen, no, but in the frozen campaign, it's not as much of
The
a
water would
deal.
freeze. Well,
Yeah.
there's snow, and you can melt the
There you
snow.
go. Find yourself some ice and some snow and melt it.
But it's still dirty, theoretically. You still have to boil the hell out of it.
Well, okay. Now there's a difference between being dirty in terms of debris,
Oh, no,
particles,
no, no, no. And bacteria.
versus bacteria, right? So
There's still bacteria that
those are
lives
two
in
different
the ice.
things. Those are two different things. If you boil it, yeah, you probably take care of most of that. Of course, we're talking a fantasy world that may not have the germs like we know today. So that may not even really be an issue. But then you get the particulate matter that I may not want to be drinking the shit
Ah,
that's in there. But
sand.
anyway, so
Yeah.
if you want to make your travel
Grass
your
bits.
distance travel weeks at a time, you want to make it gritty. Focus on the drink, not the food.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So all right,
So
so
then,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, 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 no,
I
no.
was just
I was
saying.
going to
So
change topics.
yeah, yeah. So what house rule or homebrew rules do you currently use in your game?
Currently, of course, no initiative combat.
Yay! No initiative combat.
Initiative
And
combat!
why is that? Because it makes the game fast
Game
and it makes it a little
faster.
more realistic.
Nine motherfuckers
And
at
it
my
puts the
table.
pressure on the players. It creates that stressful, combat. As combat should be stressful.
Tension.
Combat, you're
Yeah.
fighting for your life or death. Someone is friggin' standing in front of me with a sword and trying to kill me. So yeah, that should be a little stressful.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you
Um,
use?
I do crunchy criticals, which is so you get a critical, you roll a nat 20. Woo! I crit. You then are supposed to roll the damage dice twice. Is raw,
Okay,
right?
yep, that's what I do.
So I, as the DM, allowed my players because they gave it to me. They put it on the table, and I said, sure, but if we're doing that, I get to do it too. So a crunchy critical is whatever the max damage dice is, plus whatever you roll.
Okay,
So
so
if
in
it's
essence,
2d6s
instead of rolling
for
the
the
second,
critical.
instead of rolling the second time, you just do max damage for the second one.
Yep.
Okay,
So if it's 2d6s for the critical, you do 6 plus your roll.
plus a d6, d6 plus 6.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. And so that's the same with monsters. I
As it
also
should be,
do-
right? If it's got to go both ways.
Right.
Otherwise,
I mean,
it's not going to
why
balance.
else?
Yeah, it's going to
Right.
it's going to really throw off the balance. Yeah.
So The other thing that I do, and I don't know if this is theoretically homebrew or if it's a house rule, but I don't roll damage. I just do the average.
Okay.
So, like, wolves are average 7 damage. So if I get a critical, that's whatever the critical damage is, it's 7 plus critical. Because I use the average
Hmm.
and then the critical. And that is what it is, and it's brutal as hell, and it's very, 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 very good for them, the players, but it also can be very, very, very devastating for me, the DM.
So it's yeah that I think that actually is in your rules as written, like as an option.
Yeah, it gives you the
I believe that
average.
it
It gives
is.
it to you.
But
Yeah,
if not, I definitely have heard of other people doing that for simplicity, and for speeding the gameplay. So that like to use that with
yeah,
the no initiative combat. Oh my God, yes, do that. Do that. The
yeah.
only
If there's
drawback,
12 wolves on the table, I don't want to do that shit.
yeah, the only drawback on that, I shouldn't say the only, the drawback that I see on that is then the players know every time how much damage that bad guy's going to do. So if the bad guy has an
Yeah,
average of
correct.
10 and
Meh.
I got 8 hit points left, well, I may or may not take
You're
that
not gonna
chance, right?
remember.
I may not
You're
may
not gonna
take that
remember in
chance.
a couple, in a couple weeks what the bad guy's health is
But
if I throw enough bad guys at him.
if the bad guy does 10 and I have 8, I might be willing to take that chance even if he hits me because there's only a 20% chance he's going to kill me, right? Because I
Right.
know that. But if I don't know how much he does, I might be less inclined to take that chance. Because last
Or
time
a
he
different. You
did
don't know if they
16
have a different
16
attack.
points of damage on my guy over here last round. Holy shit! Because
Yeah.
you're not using the averages, so he did 16 points. I mean, I might not take that chance. That was twice the hit points
Yep.
I have, right? So
3 points the next turn.
it's just yeah. So it's anyway. All right.
I do it
So
for
you do that. We do it for simplicity and to
yeah,
keep the game going. I got you.
9 motherfuckers.
And because you don't like to
I'll
do
deal with
math.
it. Well, that too. Yeah. No math. I'm good.
Okay. Well, what else do you use?
Um, I can't think of anything else really.
Okay. Well, I pulled up my house rules over here on my other screen. So I will share with you what I do. So on
Screen
character,
share. Screen share.
oh, I can okay, I can do that too. So
Oh,
on character creation, you roll your hit dice to determine your hit points. And my house rule is you start at max hit points for first level. Every level up after that, you roll your hit die.
oh, oh. Fifth edition allows that. If you want to, that's a if you want to. You can either take an average or you can roll.
Okay. Well, again, but when we level up, we do roll. But on that first level, we're max. No averaging thereafter. You got to roll for it. And if you roll a one, that's just shitty for you. Sorry. All right. Let me see. I modified our currencies just a smidge. I'll go back to encumbrance here. So on our hurled and missile attacks, you get +1 to hit for short range, and -1 to hit and damage on long range. On our critical hits and misses, similar to what you described, we roll twice
Mm-hmm.
for damage on a critical hit, and we don't really do anything on the critical miss. I don't have a fumble table or anything like that. I don't have a critical hit table where you might get an instant kill with a blow to the head. You don't sever a limb, create a permanent disability, yada yada yada. Because hopefully it's not going to matter because you're going to fight the bad guy to the death until you kill him. And what if the bad guy gets a critical hit and kills you in one blow? That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Or what if he severs a limb? Yeah, you win the fight, but now you only have one arm. And that's like till you forever. That kind of sucks. So to create that kind of permanent disability, I think for, again, like we talked about just an hour ago, if you have the right set of players, mature players, experienced players who understand that and can role play that out, fine. If that works for your table, fine. But nowadays, I don't see an abundance of a lot of experienced players, mature players who are good at role playing. So therefore, I don't do that. All right, so I have a modification. This is what I thought was my homebrew, but it's actually a house rule. It's a modification, 0 hit points. So this is a little update here for us, Julie. Effective today. I've modified here a little bit. So it is commonly played, and this is not rules as written, but it's commonly played in first edition. When you hit 0 hit points, you're dead. Game over.
Yeah.
Tear it up, or find someone to resurrect you or something like that. But you're done. But the rules as written actually talks about negative hit
Oh,
points. Okay, so what we do is you go into negative hit points, starting at -1. That is, if you have 2 hit points and get hit for 6, you don't go to -4. You just go to -1. Every subsequent round, you lose a point, going deeper into the negative. When you hit a negative hit die, you die. So if you're a fighter, you have a hit die of 10. When you hit -10, you're dead. Cleric has a hit die of 8. You hit -8, you're dead. We do take into account the Constitution modifier. So if your Constitution is high and you normally get 2 extra hit points, well then 2 more hit points until you actually die. And then, so that's just a tweak to what we had earlier. And then, how do you prevent that character from hitting that negative hit point mark for which they're really dead? Well, you need to intervene, of course, right? So if you have someone with a non-weapon proficiency of healing, I'm looking over here at number 1. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Then they can tend to you and stop the dying process. Okay, they might actually be able to restore some points, but at least you won't continue to lose a hit point every round. So they kind of stabilize your state of shock, if you will. And then someone's got to come in and cast, a healing spell or a healing potion or something. And then we add that to your negative and hopefully bring you into a positive. Whenever it is you do hit into a positive state, you need to rest for a certain number of turns. Looking at number 3. So when the
hmm
injured character has been restored from negative hit points to a positive, then they must rest for a number of turns equal to the greatest negative hit points they sustain. So if you went down to -5 and someone revives me and I'm back into the positive, I need to rest for 5 turns before being combat ready. And not just, oh, I'm positive and therefore I'm good to go. So that's going to,
Yeah, but we don't usually do that one, right?
well,
You haven't been super on top of that
well,
one.
no. So number 3 I had very early on, like over a year ago, and then I pulled out -3 to kind of keep the game moving. But I put it back in because I also changed some other things up over here. Like I added in the con modifier,
hmm
and you only you start at -1. So if I have 4 hit points and get hit for 10, by rules as written, I should be -6. And I'm saying, no, no,
Right.
no, you're only going to be at -1. So I kind of
Yeah.
worked that in the character's favor as well as the con modifier in the character's favor. So to kind of balance that, I said, well, yeah, you need to rest. You're in the middle of a dungeon crawl, but yeah, you're not combat ready for an hour. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we didn't really like when we all got blasted. I don't think we did that. I think we like ran away to go like get our HP back up.
Right. So, but like I said, I had done away with number 3 for a while. So, but
Yeah.
being that I tweaked the number whatever number paragraph here and number 1 and such, I'm reintroducing that.
Yeah.
And then I changed our resting here as well. I went closer back to rules as written. Um, so rules as written says you get 1.1 hit point back on a rest. 1.
Mm.
Not a range, just 1. So I'm putting it at 1 to 2 plus the con modifier. And of course, you can only rest once per calendar day. And that's your only option for organic hit point recovery.
Mm.
Previously, we had a long rest and a very long rest. So I've done away with that very long rest. And then we talk about exhaustion. I've modified this here as well. So if you skip your long rests, okay, you're going to get -1 to hit on your attack and your damage rolls, -1 on your saving throws, and a +1 penalty on your skill checks. If you
Mhm.
go 2 days, well, that bumps up to 3 instead of 1. And then if you go past 2 days without resting, not only do you have all of that, um, there's a cumulative 20% chance for every hour that you just fall asleep. No matter
You
where
become
you are, what
narcoleptic.
you're doing, you just like your body just checks out and you're done.
Yeah.
And then you need to sleep for a long time to your long rest in that isolated instance changes. So you're going to be going
Yeah.
from 14 to 20 hours for your
Yeah.
rest versus a normal 8. House rule for us is item identification. So when you find a magic item,
You
um,
tell me what it is,
I,
and
I
that's it.
tell you the title, and I say
Not what it
this
does.
is a wand of fire, whatever, and then it's up to you to figure out how to use it, figure out what it does, whether that be through like an identify spell, contact the local sage, have them research it for you, whatever the case may be. If you decide to spend the time and effort to do that, then you know what it is and how to use it, and you can use it. If you choose not to spend the time and money and effort to do that, then you're using it at your own risk if you can even figure out how to use it. Or at the start of the next module, I will give you the full magic item card, so to speak. I'll tell you everything that it does. But you know as well as I that a module can be 6 to 12 months of real time by the time you finish it. So you find this item in month 2, you could be waiting months to use this incredible, awesome item because you don't have the ability to figure out what it does. And then 100% house rule here is spell components. So spellcasters can cast all kinds of spells, right? And oftentimes the spells require certain physical material components to
Mhm.
cast that. So to save us the time and effort of our gameplay of searching through
Ah,
towns trying to find these various spell components that you may or may not really be able to find, we simplified it and said,
you have a pouch.
here's your table to compute the cost. You pay the cost, you have your spell components. Now, an exception to that is if the spell specifically says it has to be whatever component at a certain cash value, then you need to seek that out and pay that cash value. So if it requires like a crushed pearl of 100 gold pieces or more, then
Then you need to find one.
included in this basic spell component cost table. You
Right.
actually have to
Right. Right.
pay that
Right.
100
Something.
gold. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Really
that's what I
specific.
have. Well, I call them all house rules. They're not, but that's our rules that we have for our game or my games that I use. And as I'm seeing, I got a few spelling areas, whatever, here and there. But so that's what we got. So let me go back to the slot base system here for encumbrance because I just put it in our Discord server a couple hours ago, and Rustin said he's on board. Alba said, "Yeah, sounds good. We'll give it a try." And that's exactly what it is. We're going to play test it here over the next several months and see what we think. But it does not take into account race, class, height, or weight of the character, but it does take into account their
Mhm.
strength. Okay,
Mhm.
so you can never have more than 40 slots. You start with a base of 10. Throw on a backpack, you got 15 more slots. Throw on a belt pouch, you got 2 more slots. But again, you can never have
Is
more
that
than
per belt pouch?
yes per belt pouch.
Okay.
Okay, but you can never have more than 40 slots.
Okay.
Okay, and then strength can adjust. So let's go down to here to strength. The where did I describe that? That's an asterisk. First asterisk. Okay, right here. The player's handbook, page 9, strength table. Da da
Nine
da.
strength table two.
Okay.
Weight allowance column. Round down
Yep.
to the nearest hundredth.
Yep. So if it says you can carry plus 300, you get 3 extra slots. If it says you can carry plus 550, you get 5 slots, additional slots. Okay. Now there's restrictions here as to there are some limitations. You can only carry so much of a particular item. So armor, shield, helmet, and backpack, you can only have one of each. You can't wear a
Mhm.
suit of armor and carry another suit of armor. When it comes to your missile ammunition, your sling stones, you can only have 2. Now, not 2 stones. They're sold as a score. They're sold as 20. So you can have two
Mhm.
two slots of 20 each. So you can have
Okay.
up to 40 stones, okay? And the same applies for your rations. They're sold by the week. You can only carry 2 weeks at a time. And then maximum quantity of 3. That applies to weapons which are not melee. So yeah, I got 5 open slots. I can't carry 5 swords. Not going to work. Okay? You can carry, or I guess the way it's worded here, weapons which are melee only. So I could carry 3 swords. But if I have 5 weapon proficiencies, I can't carry my 5 melee only weapons. So I can't have a sword,
Right.
a mace, a flail, a polearm, and
Mm.
a morning star, even though I have the slots.
Mm.
Okay? Hurled weapons. So a hand axe, darts, daggers, things like that. That is the fire rate of that item times 3. So a hand axe can be thrown 1 per attack round, so you can carry up to 3. Daggers can be
Mhm.
thrown 2, so you can carry up to 6. Darts can be thrown 3 per attack round, you can carry up to 9.
Mm.
And no more than 3 belt
Yeah, you were a
pouches.
little wiggle. You were like more wiggly on that before, where you're like, if you can tell me where you're putting them all, maybe I'll tell you yes or
Right,
no.
right.
And now
Uh,
this kind of
and,
solidifies it a little bit
and
more
belt
for
pouches are
you.
limited to 3. And that is
Yeah.
because, while physically I might be able to carry a hand, I can strap them to my thighs and my waist and my, but then we're going to add more and more slots. And I'll put on 10 belt pouches I can carry. I have 20 more
Eh,
slots.
Let me break the
So
game.
that's why I limited that to 3.
Yeah, you need to find somebody who knows how to break games like that. You need to find somebody who's like a min maxer, look it over. I would let Chase look it over and see if he can't break it.
And
Because he
then
knows how to break the things. And he does it, he tries not to do it, but sometimes he still does it. But he knows how to break it and he knows how not to break it. He would be a good play tester for you to like for him to just read it
to
over and
kind
be
of
like,
review
yeah,
it,
I can
yeah,
break
okay.
this.
And then I have here if a character has more than 30 slots filled. So you have to have 30, right? And if it, or
Your
31,
upper
okay.
percentile.
And then if you have more than 30 slots filled, it decreases your movement by 3, and you sustain more damage when you fall. If you have more than 35 filled, well, you sustain that extra damage. It slows you down, and you will drown automatically if you're in water that's twice as deep
Heavy,
as you
heavy.
are tall.
Ugh,
So if you're 5
just
feet
sink.
tall and you're in 10 feet of water, game over if you got that much shit.
Mm. So on Tuesday, are we gonna go like full blown like number crunch into our inventory slot system?
So yeah, so that's part of what we're going to do this Tuesday. We're going to kind of have
Okay,
like an abbreviated actual
good.
gameplay, and we're going to kind of
Because
go through this stuff here.
baby needs help.
um, and then okay, so what is a slot? What would constitute filling a slot? Okay, so however it's sold in the player's handbook. This is the double asterisk down bottom here. Okay,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, if it's sold,
20 arrows
so yeah, so
is one slot.
arrows are sold as a dozen. So 12 arrows is one
12,
slot.
sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sling stones are sold by the score, so 20 stones are one slot. If you
One
have
slot.
21 stones, that's 2
Oh god.
slots.
Oh,
If you have one
kind of
stone,
funny.
that's one slot. Okay. Some items don't count, so the clothes you're wearing don't count as a slot. Backpack, belt pouches don't count as a slot. The quiver that holds the arrows don't count as a slot.
Containers.
Um, Coins,
Containers.
50 coins. Every 50 coins is a slot.
Okay. And then, so does the bag of holding have its own number of
So
slots?
no, the bag of holding would be one slot.
Well, right, but inside the bag of holding, does the bag of holding have its own
So
slots?
no, the bag of holding does not have slots because that's really weight based or coinage based. But that's a very fair question. I may have to change that. I don't think we're going to have to though. I think we're just going to say it can hold X number of coins because that's
X
primarily
number of
what you use
weight.
it for. It's for coinage and not items.
You
And
put some stuff in there
yeah,
sometimes.
sometimes, but I,
There's
I
like jewelry and shit in there right now.
I think to minimize
I might
overcomplicating.
have a spell scroll in there.
Okay, so then other things that would count as a spell slot, right? A wand, a potion, a
Item
scroll,
slot.
a jewel chalice, whatever other items you might pick up along the way. But essentially, the stuff your containers and the stuff that you wear, essentially the stuff you wear on your body for like your person, doesn't take a
Don't
slot. So
count.
your backpack, your
Okay.
pouches, your clothes. If you had jewelry on, necklace, rings, that doesn't count as a slot. Okay, because
Magic
we're,
items that
we're
you
we're
wear.
finding the balance between physical weight and bulkiness, right?
Yeah.
So
The necessary items or unnecessary bulk.
so a backpack is big and bulky, yeah, but you're going to put all the other stuff in it. That's really where it comes from. That's where the bulkiness comes from. Otherwise, it'd be compacted down, not a big deal. So the backpack itself doesn't count. All right. Some clarifying examples. One example, I got a. What the hell? Obviously, I have some typos there. But
Ugh.
one slot would be 1 week of rations, yeah, a dozen arrows, a score of crossbow bolts because they're sold by the score, and so on. So that's going to be what we're going to be talking about on Tuesday. That's going to be a new house rule for inventory
Yeah.
management.
There you go.
So those are my house rules in their actual formal format, pen and paper written down. Those are my house rules slash
Uh,
homebrew.
yeah, 5e, if you do D&D Beyond, it keeps track of your weight. The only time I would ever check somebody's weight, like, hey, let's do a weight check, is if they were like a real treasure goblin and they had a lot of stuff. They were like the treasurer and they had all the coins. And I'm like,
And that's just another reason why I tell everyone one person, while they're the treasurer, they're the accountant keeping track of stuff.
accounting it should be different than I hold all the money.
Correct. That's exactly my
Yeah.
point. One person should not be holding all the treasure for everyone because then that raises a whole set of
They
problems.
encumber them.
First,
But
how,
they run away or die.
how much of that money is mine, right? If
Yeah.
I jot it
How
down,
much is
if
the
I jot it down on my character
party's?
sheet, I would imagine that I'm actually carrying that. I'm going to lose track of the fact that I'm not carrying that when we start talking about this weight. What if
Yeah.
that character who has all the money is separated from the
Guys,
party, falls
please.
down the pit, falls off the boat and drowns,
Nonsense.
whatever it is, right? Has everyone's money now I have nothing. And then
Everybody
there's the
has now
fact of
nothing.
he's carrying 5,000 coins.
Uh,
How much weight is that?
Cumbered.
You know, and not only is
A
it the
lot.
weight factor, like physically, how is he carrying that? How is he? What kind of container does he have to hold
Is
all
he
that
putting it
coinage?
in?
So that's why that should never be done by an adventuring party.
Oof.
Never be done. All right, so that's what I got for my house rules, Julie.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, likes, dislikes?
Um, I'm still back and forth on this stupid die you're dead. But that's just what the game is. And that's just me fighting the addition.
Yeah,
Um,
but I have the negative hit point, which is it gives you
yeah,
something. You have your death
yeah, yeah,
saves or
yeah.
whatever, but
Yeah, and with that we were going back and forth on having it or not having it, and our Tuesday group was,
correct,
and
correct.
it a little more gritty, a little more realistic. First edition is no, you don't have any of it all. Suck,
Well,
nuts,
right, and
die.
and I was kind of leaning towards that because when I initially did this at the time, my homebrew rule, I said it applies for the party when they're first level. When they're second level,
Because
it no longer
they're so
applies. But now we
squishy.
had a first level character come in, so it kind of raised the debate again. But then I went back and I said, yeah, but rules as written says they have a rule for this negative. So let me
Yeah,
embrace it. And we'll keep it and we'll,
yeah,
we'll try it and see how we go. But again, I tweaked it even from a little bit from what we had, tweaked it certainly from what rules as written is,
raw.
um, but
Yeah,
still maintaining it. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, literally every other game system has it. I mean, it has it for a reason.
Right, right.
And I think it goes into the balance.
If there's a
And that's
game, if
why
there's a system
it
that needs
exists.
it, if there's a system that needs it, it's 1E, which is, as you know, is very gritty
Very
and it's very
brutal.
easy to die in 1E.
Yeah,
You know,
all the
I mean,
time.
even if you take your death saves out of 5th edition, it's still pretty hard. It's much harder to die in 5th edition than it is in 1st. So,
Unless your DM is like hard targeting you, yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely hard.
So
Okay,
I think if anyone
DMs
needs
don't
it,
really
it's
do
it's
that.
1st edition, and that would be us here on Tuesday nights. So, okay. So that's what I got for house rule and homebrew. But there are definitely
Yeah.
some out there that are really sucky, um,
Stupid.
that are really just bad. And they totally, as you would say, they break the game. They really
Break the
make it
game.
unbalanced. They make it not fun. It's
Make it a
sucky.
whole nother game.
So, as you're considering house rules and homebrew rules, whatever you want, whatever it is, when you're considering a modification to the rules as written in one form or another, you
Gotta be
really
aware
need to take time to
of what you're
consider it.
changing.
You really need to
Yeah.
think about it, discuss it with your players, discuss it with other DMs, see if other people have tried it, bounce off ideas. Some people might tell you they tried it and it screwed it up.
It sucks. Yeah.
There are other times when, for the same thing, someone else will say, "Yeah, we played with that and it worked fine for us," which means all the more you need to play test it with your group to see if it's going to work. If everyone in the world says, "Yeah, man, that rule didn't work for us," then it's probably not going to work for you too. You really need to reconsider that. But
Yeah.
you definitely need to take time to think about it. Just don't
Play
start
testing
throwing
is a
in
thing.
just don't start throwing in rules because it sounds good on paper. You need to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Discuss it with others, play test it, discuss it with your players, get feedback, work on house rules together with your players. Now, if you come up with the house rules, home rule, whatever modified rules with your play group and it works for them, I would say feel comfortable taking that into the next group that you play with.
Yeah.
Because
And
as
seeing
the
how it goes
DM,
there.
you're probably maintaining your same play style. So it's probably going to work in the next game and not going to break it. Now, the players may not like it, which is a different component of modifying rules. But at that point, it's probably safe for you to not break your game. But you have to. You can't do this willy nilly. That's the bottom. You can't do it willy nilly. It does require much thought, consideration, and planning and play.
And then if you add too many, and then it becomes
Yeah,
muddy.
because you don't want to be
Yeah.
adding too many, because then always got to
It
be
gets too
you always
gritty.
got to be referencing your house rules for everything.
Yeah. I made a
Yeah,
one shot where
yeah.
there's just too many little mechanics and too many little tables, and I was just back and forth, back and forth. Wait, guys, wait, wait, no, oh, wait, 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 hold on, this thing, wait, wait, wait.
So, yeah, and some of them over time, some of them, your house rules, homebrew, will become second nature. While you might have a dozen of them, they become second nature because they're pretty simple and they're not too far off track, right?
Right. A
Like
modification.
the one for us that we'll be referencing a lot is our 0 hit points and our
And the
encumbrance.
encumbrance,
But even
because
that
it's new.
with the encumbrance, once we do the initial math and determine how many slots
What's
the
what, where's
character
where.
has, those slots are
Yeah.
not going to change unless they put on an
No.
extra belt pouch or lose a backpack or something, right? So
Yeah.
once we determine how many slots every
Increase the
character
strength
has,
stat.
yeah, but that doesn't happen in 1E. Your strength doesn't change.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even if you go up in level, it doesn't
No,
change?
no, no, no.
Really?
Nope. So once we determine how many slots each character has, you flip over your character sheet, you draw 28 lines or whatever you have, and you start
Boxes.
filling in your inventory.
Yeah.
You know.
Bam.
So, but yeah, those are the two, primarily the 0 hit point and resting, that we'll be referencing more than anything. But other than that, it's relatively straightforward, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we'll reference the spell components because we have to look that up. But that's only once per module. That's it. At the start of the module, pay your fee and we're done. So,
Take my money.
yeah, take my money. All right, Julie, last word here on house rules, homebrew rules.
Last word.
Ready, go. Last say.
Uh, as we were talking about it before, homebrew is completely new and original ideas. House rules are adjusted and modified ideas. I really like all the ones that I implement only because it helps speed up my gameplay. That's my main focus. My main focus is, does it speed up my gameplay? Great, awesome, love it. Let's do it. Great, love it. Mostly because I have a large table. Keith does his because he is kind of amalgamating really old rules and trying to make it to be a more playable convenience. I don't know, a system that is enjoyable. Because first edition's rough. So I know yours is more of a quality of life thing. Mine is a speed thing. And we definitely try to find ways to improve upon that. And everybody comes up with new ideas every single day. So it's a great way to expand your DM style. To expand on different rules that may not suit your table or may suit your table, and you can play and find out.
I said last word, and I stand by that. But I have a question for you. Um, in terms of speeding up gameplay, have you yet thought about? I don't think we've talked about it yet. Of using zoned combat to speed things up.
You told me that we would talk about it,
Okay.
and I said cool, let's talk about it,
Okay.
and then we never actually talked about it.
All
I've
right. All right.
watched the video
Okay.
because it's part of the no initiative video.
I don't think it's
Oh
go-
no, it's a second.
no.
It's another
It's
one.
a
There's
separate
a
thing.
second one.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
But
don't
I've watched it.
I don't think it's going to work well for fifth edition though.
No, you have to have the stupid round board.
So well, yeah, but you can make that. That's not. But I don't think it's going to work well for fifth edition. I think it's going to work better for old school stuff,
Older editions, yeah, more
or stuff
battle
on
gamey
that concept. Whether it be Shadow Dark, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Old School Essentials, or D&D First Second Edition. I think it's going to work better for those systems than it is for fifth edition, which has a much more
combat based.
complicated combat economy, much more
Yeah.
complicated. As we
Yes.
talked about earlier with these bonus actions and all
Oh,
this other stuff.
I missed a homebrew that I do.
What's
I
that?
don't do I don't do attack of opportunity. I got rid of it.
Hmm. Attack of
No
opportunity.
disengage, no attack of opportunity
Okay.
because
So
of no initiative combat.
so when you say no disengage, does that mean if I'm in melee combat, I can't turn around and run?
So it won't give an attack of opportunity.
Okay. So I can disengage from the combat, but
Yeah,
we're
but
just returning that whatever mechanic you had in there.
yeah, nothing's happening.
Okay.
You can run away from the guy if you want to. There's maybe safely. You
Yeah, yeah.
safely run away.
Okay.
Maybe if you do run away, I do get some kind of an attack because that's the only obvious one. But like going in between people,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
moving
yeah, yeah,
around,
yeah. I remember that.
I got rid of that.
Yeah.
That's the one I got rid of. If you're gonna straight up fight a guy one on one, turn around and try and run away, sure, I'll get to attack you.
Yeah.
On my round, I attack you.
Yeah.
Okay, I run away.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'm still gonna attack
Right.
you.
Especially since you're doing no initiative combat and everything's happening
It
at
all happens
once.
at once.
Right. So
Yeah.
when I as the player character say screw it, I'm out of here, and I turn and run. Well, that's my action. That's what I'm doing. And his action is to freaking swing at me, which he was going to do anyway, right? Swing at me as I'm running away. It's just that now he's going to have some sort of advantage or bonus because it's
Yeah,
to,
maybe
to
it's
my
an
back,
advantage because
right?
it's on your back.
It's to my
Yeah.
back, and my armor class is different because I don't have my shield to protect myself from a
Well,
back
I mean,
attack.
5e doesn't have the stupid pluses and minuses that first edition does, just to hit modifiers and stuff like
Well,
that. It
well,
was
yeah,
just the
but
advantage or
but
disadvantage.
if I have a shield, it increases my armor class by 1 or 2, right?
Oh, I guess, yeah,
That's what
maybe
I'm
you ran
saying.
away, you don't have your shield up.
Right.
I would have to keep track on who has a shield. I
Yeah.
assume somebody who's going to do that is going to be like the rogue, and they're not going to have a shield.
So, well, I mean, anyone who is low hit points is going to turn and run, not necessarily just a
Correct.
rogue. So, um, but yeah, okay. All right. So opportunity attacks have gone.
Yeah, I missed one. I
Okay.
missed my importance
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
Anyway,
but yeah,
last word.
and I think
That was my last word.
I think it's good that you spoke about that to kind of clarify that. But that kind of falls in your no initiative combat though, under the umbrella of that.
Yeah,
So,
but
and that's a
it is
whole.
what it
For
is.
those who don't know what no initiative combat is, that's a whole other conversation we're not going to get into here. It's too complicated for us to discuss it here
Ah,
in a minute or two, especially shoehorning
well
it
said.
into fifth edition because it's really not intended for that with a complexity that of combat that is fifth edition,
Reactions are hard.
and that's why
Pushing
Julie has had to
reactions
even modify her
suck.
combat, the mechanics of the combat, to make no initiative combat work for her in fifth edition. But it also demonstrates that it is doable. It can be done
It is.
with some
We do.
adjustments. But no initiative combat, I'll say like that's where it is. It makes combat so much faster, and it makes it a little more
Once you get a hang of
a little
it,
more realistic, and kind of creates
the learning
a little
curve is
stressful
bad, but
environment. Well, yeah, but the learning curve was because you were learning, like, hey,
no initiative combat and
the opportunity attacks don't work in this system of no initiative
right.
combat. That's where the learning curve was. Once you figured that out, you know, you were good.
Bit pretty smooth sailing, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, peeps, we're out. Topic of conversation. If you didn't get it here over the past hour, because you didn't watch the past hour, you only watched the first 2 minutes or 4 minutes that most of our viewers watch. But maybe you came in at the tail end. So you came in at the tail end of us talking about house rules, homebrew rules, what they are, good ones, bad ones, and what we use. So scroll back about 20 minutes, and you'll see all the ones that I use. And you go before that, we'll talk about the ones that Julie currently used. So you all have a good night, and Julie, I will see you on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Good night.
Bye.